Some say the end of the world is upon us. Well, that sounds like a song worth investigating. Welcome to Wild Songs, the creative space for the curious misfits. I'm your host, Kyle, and on this podcast, I'm taking you through a journey towards writing deeper, more powerful, more intimate, more vulnerable songs. And even if you're the casual listener that just enjoys music, I think you're really going to love what we tackle in these episodes and start hearing music differently. I've got some good news and some bad news. All right, the good news is that you can now stream each song we dive into on this podcast. Pull up Spotify or Apple Music, search for Kyle Novy, and click follow every single week. Let me say that again. Every single week on this podcast, you're going to have a banger song that's going to change the way you hear music and think about lyrics and songwriting and life and all the fun stuff we talk about. So whether you're using Spotify or Apple Music, whatever platform you're using to listen to music, go check out the songs. I'll put the links below. And I'm also going to have the lyric videos for each of these songs on my artist channel. Go subscribe there to Kyle Novy on YouTube. Look at the lyrics, share the song with friends without being in this longer podcast format. Okay, that's the good news. The bad news is, this episode is dedicated to my sweet daughter, Amethyst, who just turned 8 years old. Hi, Amy. You're probably wondering, Kyle, what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is that Amy is growing up in a world where her dad's podcast doesn't have many reviews. So, folks, come on now, show me some love. Will you guys do me a favor? Can we not let my daughter grow up in this tragic world where hundreds of people are engaging with this podcast already and not slapping 5 stars on that sucker? So if you're watching this on YouTube, can you take a second, go to your favorite podcasting platform and rate this? Look, I'm sincerely grateful for the messages and texts and emails that I get from people who are having profound experiences with these songs. Can you just write that up in a heartfelt review? It'll go a long way towards getting this podcast out there so more people can hear it, engage with it, and start conversations. All right, buckle up. Get that seatbelt buckled. If you don't, you're going to end up with a neck brace bigger than what Ernest had. Don't act like you didn't watch those movies when you were growing up. We all did. Okay, now that you're buckled up, let's go. How do you approach a song about the end of the world? REM said, I feel fine. Peter Gabriel said, Lord, here comes the flood. St. Vincent said, I guess you're afraid of what everyone's made of, time and light. Part of your responsibility as a kingdom artist is not just songs about the same topics, but when was the last time you wrote about repentance? And in this case, the end of the world, apocalyptic kind of stuff. Do you write about that? So what are we talking about by saying the end of the world? What do I mean? Is it this?
Food shortage that will trigger a deadly domino effect of mass panic, bloody brawls and bread lines, a full government shutdown, and ultimately starve America.
Is it this kind of stuff?
This new temple will trigger a series of horrific tribulations leading to Armageddon, the final battle that will seemingly destroy our world.
Well, that's part of the story, but the centerpiece is something that makes people uncomfortable. This.
We need Jesus. I think for real. Like if he came back now, it'd be great. Like Jesus, if you're thinking about coming back
right now,
now's a good time.
Yeah, pretty soon. Yeah,
now's a good time.
Well, there's a lot of people that think that might be coming.
Well, it might be.
The world that's hearing this message, the kingdom of heaven is near. Jesus is coming back.
I was talking a while back on the phone with Bryson White. He's a professor at Santa Clara University. He's an old friend and roommate of mine. We went to grad school together. And he focuses on race and eschatology. Eschatology is the study of the theology of the end times. And we were talking about the state of the world, and he said, Kyle, the only hope I have, legitimately, the only way we're going to get out of this mess is if Jesus comes back. It struck me because we don't really believe that in our culture. We don't believe that at all. And I've been surrounded by so many people who I think you could describe as humanists. And for all the good and all the well-intention they have, they might have the right heart. I mean, I think humans are capable of so much more. And I love that spirit of pushing humans towards their greatness. But that doesn't happen outside of a collective, radical identity shift. And when humans, who are pieces of art, trying to find their identity apart from their maker, the great artist, it's not going to work. Jonathan Pajot is a Canadian iconographer and artist. And one of the things he talks about is us being on the edge of the world, like how societal breakdown is inevitable. Like we're coming near the end of everything we've ever built. And we're trying to create a system that holds everything together. And that there tends to be either religious systems, like I mentioned in the song, charlatans in the temples, like lovers in bed, lighting our torches with the fires they damn, that get us all riled up towards their system. Or you have politicians, the political sphere, the ruling class, which I call primitive politicians feeding on fears, sensing the waning wisdom we're failing to hear. But these systems that we're trying to build, it's not possible. Because that's what God does. He holds things together. So when we try to create a new world in our likeness with our rules, Jonathan says, like, we end up trying to become God, and it won't work.
That cannot be. That system like that cannot hold. It will necessarily shatter. Because you cannot have a system which is coherent and complete at the same time. It's not possible. Because nothing in the world is God. That's why we even have the notion of God, because God is the only aspect that contains all and that is over all and beyond all. But all these little systems, these little civilizations, they can't have all reality in them.
As Bob Dylan put it, he says, of every earthly plan that be known to man, he is unconcerned. He's got plans of his own to set up his throne when he returns. It's like we can do all the planning and all the systems, all the things we want. But man, God's got a whole different blueprint. He's playing a different game. So the world has these plans, these patterns, these rules, and that whole system, what we call the ways of the world, is in mourning right now because it knows it's coming to an end. And yet it plugs its ears, downs another drink, takes another hit, try to ignore reality. But as Leonard Cohen said, everybody knows. Everybody knows the plague is coming. Everybody knows it's moving fast. Everybody knows that the naked man and woman are just the shining artifact of the past. Everybody knows the scene is dead. There's going to be a meter on your bed that will disclose what everybody knows. And he takes it a step further. Everybody knows that you're in trouble. Everybody knows what you've been through. From the bloody cross on top of Calvary to the beach of Malibu, everybody knows it's coming apart. Take one last look at the Sacred Heart before it blows. Everybody knows. And that's one of the paradoxes about the end of the world. On one hand, people are blind and they don't know what's going on. And they're going to be surprised and shocked. Like it says, a thief in the night. Like, I didn't know. Just like the flood happened. People didn't know. But at the same time, the paradox is like, we all do. When we stand before judgment, when we look at our lives, when our Maker speaks to us face to face and shows us what's going on, we were aware. We knew exactly what we were doing. So this song, High Tide, I see it kind of the mix of The Boy Who Cried Wolf meets The Great Flood with a dark apocalyptic flair for good measure. Everything is based on this idea of a tide rising, this growing sense that things are reaching a tipping point. Things are becoming increasingly intense. It's not just our country that's changing, it's the world that's shifting. Culture is stepping into unparalleled times of tension. Now, I'm sure you may have heard any number of phrases like this, but to be honest, that's always been the case. They would have said that when Genghis Khan was ravaging countless tribes and lands. They would say that during the French Revolution. They'd certainly say that in 1962 with the threat of nuclear annihilation. So what I try to examine in this song is that, each generation deals in some way with the thought that the world's coming to an end, especially in this last century. Each decade finds numerous voices claiming the end is here. So no, I'm not trying to sum up what will happen in the end times. In this song, I'm more so piqued with curiosity of our response to these thoughts. Like if we become too accustomed to hearing it over and over, we become tone deaf, we become desensitized. So how would we think and respond to the reality that the world really was coming to its last days? Like the boy who cried wolf. When the freaking wolf shows up with its cold eyes and gnarly teeth and insatiable appetite, what do you do then? It might be a joke or a hoax 99 other times, but when it actually does happen, and it will, what then? Over and over, we've responded to the boy who cried wolf with, it's just another tide. It's just another ebb and flow in our culture. It's just another cycle of the same old thing in this world. No big deal. And perhaps rightly so. I don't think there's anything wrong with being skeptical about these sorts of predictions, because a lot of people are full of, I'm skeptical, but this song is more about wondering what happens when it actually is more than just another high tide, but a massive flood of human history comes crashing in on itself. A deluge of powers, justice, failures, hopes, progress. The most influential human in the history of the world said that the last days will be just like the great ancient flood. People were eating, drinking, partying, carrying on as usual, love and sex and comfort, celebration and good times, completely unaware that a massive flood would rip apart their plans, wipe out all their petty projects, pour over their arrogance and lust and self-seeking motives. And I tried to hint at how, as humans, we like to think we're in control, like the end won't happen, like God doesn't make the calls, we do. However naive we are, we enjoy the freedom of thinking nothing will happen. Ignorance is bliss. I feel fine. So I tried to paint all this romanticizing we've done with our lips running wild on the street corners, preaching, it's just another high tide. Ignore them. They're blowing smoke. It's not going to happen. Let's just do whatever the hell we want to do. Now, for me, I want to respond differently. Just like the episode on modern times where when the world's going this way, I'm heading this direction. So for me, there's a shift that happens in the song. I'm not going to spoil it for you because I want you to experience it with all its surprises and twists and turns. But you might have noticed I like to find dual meanings or paradoxes in songs. And the paradox of the song was the flood, the water. We're not going to have another physical flood destruction, but we are going to have another kind of flood. And this is where I spin it towards the positive, the pouring out of God's Spirit. God said that he was going to pour out his Spirit in the last days. Jesus, he had this burning ache for his people to choose righteousness. That's an icky word in our culture. Like, we don't like that, righteousness. Ugh. But he said, no, that you would hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's the Spirit of God that he wants to pour out. And that's where you're going to hear the ache in this song. This whole season, we're talking about the ache, right? These deep longings. And there's this ache happening in our world. And our response is, well, you're going to hear it in the song. It actually becomes a poignant moment of deep worship. I'm not talking like happy, nice, joy worship. No, there's pain and regret. There's a deep ache going on. It feels dark still. But I'm asking God that he would let it flow. Let his Spirit be poured out, a great flood of revelation. It's a simple but profound acknowledgement that we continue to store up dismissal after dismissal, and our lips just write off each end time claim with a triumphant, like, I knew it. It's the same old cycle. These people are full of crap. And I question how that building up, that continuous nonsense to the boy crying wolf truly affects us and numbs us to the reality of when the wolf does show up, when a hard rain's gonna fall, when God disrupts our world, and it's not just another prediction. So I want to invite you right now into a new space. This song is really for your imagination. I've created a lot of sounds and a lot of moving parts going on, and it's a journey. It's pretty epic. So put your headphones on. If you're listening on speakers, crank those suckers, man. You really want to hear the pipe organ in all of its glory. Put away competing distractions, soak in these lyrics, and be nourished. As always, I'm extremely grateful that you're drinking this in, and I pray that it stirs you as it has stirred me. Blessings.
Resting among the whispers, the devils have come. Under the fallen timbers, fresh from the cut, weaving through conversations our fathers kept low, leaving each town in waiting as thunder clouds roll. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. Echoes of village chatter, rumoring rain, flooding with wicked laughter and covering the plain. As for the midnight shepherds, and call every sage under the willows gathered to soak up what they say. All the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. High tide flowing over. High tide flowing over. Charlatans in the temples, like lovers in bed, lighting our torches with the fires they nail. Primitive politicians feeding on fears, sensing the waning wisdom we're failing to hear. When our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. High tide flowing over. High tide flowing over. All the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, you know. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, you know. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. Think of all the times when our lips ran wild with, you know, it's just another. Times when our lips are
Now, I know there's a lot going on there in that song. I know there's a lot to think of, and there's a lot of moving parts. And probably I felt when I listened to it, there's a mixture of emotions. I don't know what to feel all the time. It's like, I don't know. I'm curious what you think of this. So first of all, I'd love to hear your comments. Like, ask questions. Tell me your experiences. Let me know in this video what you really think about it. And I want to ask you now as an artist, how's your exploration going? Like, are you writing things that are safe? The 4-chord kind of stuff that you know how to do? Are you writing about the same topics? Or are you pushing yourself into areas that might feel daunting or scary or like, man, I'm supposed to write a song about this? If you're struggling at all, from just your identity as an artist to the ideas that you have, the melodies, the kind of lyrics you're writing, how you structure a song, and even not just finishing a song, but getting the mood right, the tonality right, the feeling of what you're trying to express. That's very difficult. And then even from there, how to actually put that into a finished piece, right? So like for me, producing this song was just as much hard work as an artist of getting those ideas right and translating that into sound. And if you're struggling with any of this, or you need help with any of it, or you want real, legit, world-class feedback, this is what I do. And I'd love to get together with you and help you. And it's really simple. We'll just have a creative session one-on-one together. It's about 45 minutes. And we dive into your song. This is where all of my clients start. They get legit feedback and practical things to do on their songs like you've never gotten. I know how to unlock a song and help people see the vision for their song and a vision for what's possible with them as an artist. So click the link under this video. Book a session with me. Let's work together. Or if you just have questions and you're just wondering how to get help or how to grow as an artist or suggestions on what you want to hear on this podcast or what kind of topics you want me to talk about specifically with the creative process, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I want this to be a community that really supports each other. So much love, and we'll talk soon.